Coming up in news, President John Mahama cautions African leaders against abuse of executive powers as he opened the 2026 judicial year of the African Court on Human and People's Rights. 9 killed in mine collapse in Sutifi South District of the Ahafo region. All is set for Ayawaso East by-election as High Court dismisses suit filed by pressure group Democracy Hub for restraint. Global oil prices surge as Middle East tensions escalate. And Zimbabwe frees nearly 4,000 prison inmates under presidential amnesty. Hello, good evening. It's the 2nd of March. Welcome to News Hour Live on your trusted news channel, GBC News. My name is Shirley Ann, and to help translate the news into sign language is Jonathan Intim Darko. You're welcome. President John Mahama has called on African Union member states that are yet to ratify the protocol establishing the African Court on Human and People's Rights to do so without delay, assuring them that there is nothing to fear from the court. The president made the appeal while opening the 2026 judicial year and marking the 20th anniversary of the court in Arusha, where he emphasized the need for stronger continental commitment to human rights, accountability, and the rule of law.
If you look beyond Africa, what you find is that facade of the so-called Global North, a group of countries that have long held themselves up as beacons of democracy and human rights, of liberty, justice, and the rule of law, is fast crumbling. Judiciaries are no longer independent. Citizens and lawful residents are being disappeared by mass law enforcement and then placed without due process indefinitely in detention centers. We see executive overreach and a steady weakening of legislative independence. We see violations of international law. Restrictions are being placed on freedom of speech, assembly, and protest. There's a general loss of liberties and a sharp decline in public trust in government. Mwalimu Julius K. Nyerere famously said, "One does not judge one's state of health by comparing yourself to a sick person." For far too long, we've compared ourselves to the West and used what we believe were their standards as our benchmarks for all our endeavors. The reality we see today should serve as a clear call to action. What should be our paradigm in understanding and interacting with the rest of the world, even as we preserve our dignity and cultural identity as Africans? Honorable judges, ladies and gentlemen, I call upon African Union member states who have not yet ratified the protocol to please do so without delay. To my colleagues, heads of states in these countries, I assure you that you have nothing to fear from this court. I humbly ask all African nations and individuals to respect and implement the court's judgments in good faith, and to also make the declaration to allow individuals and non-governmental organizations direct access to this court.
President John Mahama has cautioned African leaders against the abuse of executive power, urging them to uphold democratic principles and safeguard the independence of state institutions. Speaking at the launch of the 2026 judicial year of the African Court on Human Rights and People's Rights in Arusha, he stressed that executive overreach undermines judicial independence and weakens legislative authority across the continent.
The Prempehs, the Yasantues, the Kabalegas, the Nyomas, Mandelas, and Bikos are all recognized as martyrs of the African Revolution. Had the African Court of Human and People's Rights existed earlier in our past, these grave instances of human rights abuses and injustice would have been a very important case for you to adjudicate. We would have secured justice against racist apartheid criminals, colonialists, and even our own oppressive African dictators who tortured and sent many of their countrymen and women to death. As I said earlier, all the nations on the African continent are each other's keeper, and I truly believe this. I also believe that each of us is a keeper of the dreams and hopes of our ancestors, hopes and dreams that they could not achieve. We've paved the way for their dreams to be realized, if not by us, then by generations succeeding us. Justice systems in Africa have strengthened over the past decade. In Ghana, we're strengthening our own judicial systems. As I stand and recollect my youth and my fear for my father through my recurring nightmares, I realize that I can put those fears to rest. For the past 20 years, we've had a court that can protect the rights and dignity of African people beyond the borders of our individual nations. So allow me to say, while I'm here in this historic city of Arusha, a city well known as a site where human rights are affirmed and the dignity of African people is protected, that the time for Africa is now. Now is the time for us to meet the challenge of keeping the promise we have made to future generations, promises we have signed and pledged to uphold. Now is the time to deepen our commitments to the courts so that in 20 years from now, when we celebrate its 40th anniversary, it will stand as the leading international judicial body and a model for others.
President John Mahama has observed that many historic human rights violations and acts of torture across the continent might have been addressed earlier if the African Court on Human and People's Rights had been established at the time. Speaking at the court's 20th anniversary commemoration, he paid tribute to distinguished African personalities, including Ghanaians whose dedication and service over the past 2 decades have significantly advanced the work and impact of the court in promoting justice and accountability across Africa.
The effects of social injustice and human rights violations extend beyond individuals. They impact entire families and communities. Although our continent comprises 55 sovereign nations, our destinies are closely linked together. Globally, many still view Africa as one single entity and refer to us collectively as Africa. Is it any wonder that they do that? Look at the synergy that existed between us during Africa's era of liberation. One nation after another in quick succession declared freedom from colonial rule. Then again, when coup d'etats became fashionable, that tendency spread like a contagion through nearly every nation. We are each other's keepers. And this is why we need an institution that serves all but is beholden to none, the African Court of Human and People's Rights. Let us now consider the institution that safeguards our values and rights. Over the past 2 decades of its operation, the African Court of Human and People's Rights has proven time and again that it has the fortitude and courage to recalibrate our moral compass. We need that kind of oversight so that we remain observant and respectful of the rights and duties enumerated in the articles of the Banjul Charter, to which all the continent's nations are signatories. That charter complements this court's mission. And so now we must empower the court to be the institution that stands guard over those ideals, protecting and preserving our greatest inheritance. And I'm proud that Ghana has contributed its share of legal minds to this august court over the years. Justice Sophia Akufo served from 2006 to 2014 and rose to the position of President of the Court. She later served as Chief Justice of Ghana from 2017 until her retirement in 2019. Justice Dennis Adjei, a countryman and a respected member of Ghana's Supreme Court, is currently serving a 6-year term following his 2022 election.
Back here in Ghana, 9 people have died after a mine collapsed at Ataniata in the Sutifi South District of the Ahafo region. The deceased, identified as locals from the area, have been deposited at the St. Elizabeth Hospital in Shidiem.
The disaster occurred around 6 p.m. last Saturday at Ataniata, located off the Shidiem-Gosu Highway in the Esutifi South District. The site is said to be a new illegal mining spot in the area, which had attracted both locals and others from far off. Illegal mining was going on in full swing until the pit caved in last Saturday. The 9 dead bodies have been deposited at the St. Elizabeth Hospital at Shidiem. 4 others who sustained injuries are responding to treatment at the same hospital. Most of the victims are from Ataniata and neighboring communities like Ramuso and Amanfrom. Fears that more bodies could be trapped were laid to rest after the owner of the land and some assembly members employed heavy equipment to dig further, and no bodies were found. Despite the ongoing fight against it, Galamsey is still widespread in the Esutifi South and North districts, as well as the adjoining Tano North and South municipalities of the Ahafo region. Efforts to speak to the police have proved unsuccessful.
Now let's do some stories on Iran. The Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, says the intensifying military action in the Middle East will have serious consequences for Africa. In a statement, the West African Regional Bloc said the ensuing instability will impact global energy markets, trade and food supply chains, especially for Africa and other vulnerable regions. Meanwhile, Senegal's Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko has also warned of serious economic disruptions for the African continent, with 30 to 40% of the world's oil transits going through the Straits of Hormuz. Mr. Sonko said the conflict could lead to a surge in energy prices and a widespread increase in the cost of living. Meanwhile, an international relations expert, Dr. Vladimir Nchidanso, says Ghana must step into a frontline diplomatic role as tensions escalate between Israel and the United States on the one hand and Iran on another. Dr. Nchidanso avers that strategic mediation and high-level analysis are shaping global responses, and Ghana cannot limit itself to mere issuing of statements on international matters.
What Iran is doing, and why I'm afraid, is that they are overwhelming the capacity of Israel to intercept. That is, they are just throwing
the allies or
no, by throwing more missiles than necessary.
Okay.
Hoping that at least one will go through.
Oh.
And if you do that, your stocks deplete faster. And that's what I'm afraid of. But that they have something to hate Israel, they do. They really do, and they will hurt Israel this time. Qatar is now the center of diplomacy in the world. And everybody looks up to Qatar to come into every war and say, hey, let's talk. So it has become a power of itself, soft power, but then it's powerful. Ghana, we are too quiet, we are reactive. Something Ukraine war, then we issue a statement. And most of our statements favor one side or the other. But we could play a role. Qatar is playing a big role. In Africa, we could start playing a big role as the center for mediation, the center for, analysis of whatever it is, and project ourselves. Our president started on this AES, for example, and everybody was applauding him. He is now at the forefront of this reparation thing, and everybody is applauding him. Can we inject more fire so that in most of these things, Ghana is seen as the pivot, as the platform from which we can spring things on the world? So I believe we have a lot to do. And let me tell you, we have a lot of giants. Go to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and you get a lot of experienced diplomats who can be put together to form the eye of Ghana in most of these things. Mediation, conflict resolution, spearheading programs like the reparation, for example, and we'll see Ghana as a small country, but with the power of the brain. And in this system that we have, globalization going on very seriously. It is what we call the knowledge economy. Your knowledge forward, you are a force to reckon with in the world.
Still in news, the Accra High Court has dismissed a suit filed by pressure group Democracy Hub for a restraint on the Ayawaso East by-election slated for March 3 over alleged vote buying during the NDC primary. The court, presided over by Justice Christy Ejinim-Boateng in his ruling, described the suit as lacking capacity with regard to the procedure used in filing the motion. Democracy Hub in its suit said subsequent to the conduct of the said NDC's primary on February 7, there were widespread allegations to the effect that the said election had been characterized by alleged incidents of vote buying, inducement, monetization, and the distribution of items to delegates, which influenced the outcome of the process. The pressure group said immediately after the conduct of the said primary, the NDC, by a public statement dated February 7, 2026, and signed by its General Secretary Fifi Kwate, acknowledged that its national executives had been notified of an incident of inducement and vote buying allegedly perpetrated by some aspirants, and condemned the said acts, and announced it had instituted a full-scale investigation into the matter. According to the suit, President John Mahama, by an official communication issued through the presidency, directed the immediate recall of Mohamed Baba Jamal Ahmed, who had contested the primary along 3 other aspirants, from his position as Ghana's High Commissioner to the Federal Republic of Nigeria over the allegations, and stating that the decision was taken in order to preserve the integrity of public office and to avoid any perception of impropriety, thereby giving official acknowledgement at the highest level of state to the gravity of the electoral misconduct associated with the said primary. Democracy Hub said following the primary and public outcry, the majority caucus in Parliament, by a formal statement dated February 8, 2026, called for the immediate annulment of the primary and the disqualification of any candidate found to have engaged in vote buying on the grounds that the conduct complained of was contrary to the principles of integrity and democratic accountability. The group said the findings of the said fact-finding committee reported that some aspirants engaged in the distribution of material goods and financial benefits to delegates, including items such as motorbikes and television sets, and that such acts by their very nature constituted inducement, which undermined the integrity of the process and destroyed the perception of a level playing field. Democracy Hub, among other reliefs, wanted an injunction against the Electoral Commission to restrain it from accepting Baba Jamal's candidature unless a new primary was held by the NDC. In a counter-application, lawyers for the NDC argued the court to dismiss the suit by Democracy Hub in its entirety on the grounds that the process adopted was defective and incompetent. In its ruling on Monday, March 2, the presiding judge, Justice Ejinim-Boateng, dismissed the first and third grounds raised by the respondents, but held that the process used by the group was incomplete. Justice Ejinim-Boateng, however, commended Democracy Hub for the advocacy role it has taken in the matter, noting that elections in the country over time have been plagued by vote buying. Now, the Ayawaso East by-election comes off tomorrow, and according to the Electoral Commission, all is set for the exercise. 5 candidates are vying to represent the constituency in Parliament after the death of the MP Muhammad Nasir Tuari. The candidates are Baba Jamal of the NDC, Ibrahim Idrisu of the LPG, Baba Ali Yusuf representing the NPP, Mohamed Sanda, an independent candidate, as well as Mr. David Kano, also an independent candidate. Vote starts at 7 a.m. and ends at 5 p.m. The Director of Research at the Electoral Commission, Mr. Fred Tete, has been speaking to GBC News on some preparations.
In terms of the preparation, we've finished recruitment training of the officials. In total, we had 455 officials, including 3 returning officers. We're looking at almost 50,000 voters voting tomorrow. And ballot papers, the BVDs that we use to verify voters and plan to distribute the ballot papers early morning tomorrow. Every plan is in place. So the EC is prepared.
The Ghana Police Service is also stepping up security in Ayawaso East ahead of the March 3 by-election. The Nima District Police Command says it has intensified community sensitization to uphold peace before, during and after voting. Nima District Police Commander ASP Asong Ayrakwa said about 80 police officers will be deployed to each electoral area on election day.
Politics is not about insult. It's no insult. Support your candidate. Support your candidate, but don't insult another person. You are not supposed to deface people's posters. And I said, poster no why. Yes, will say it's against the law. Then voting centers, yes, Mama Obia Mama campaign allow people to vote freely. Support your candidates without insult. It is all about opinions and ideas. Speak peace and unity within Ayawaso East constituency. Peace and unity. Then I am stressing that above all things, Yankai said, the whole Ghana is looking at Ayawaso East. We are sure to be peaceful. Finally, he is providing enough security. Every electoral area will have about 80 people, police officers, to protect everyone. And to Obiambra out and come and vote freely.
Now to some stories on our Heritage Month series. It is a premier university of Ghana and produces great minds year after year. There is no shred of doubt that this university has carved a niche for itself as one of the reputable universities on the continent. In the month of our heritage, we throw spotlights on the school that sits on the Legon Hill in Accra, the University of Ghana in focus. Still in Niza, the Vice-Chancellor of the University of Technology and Applied Sciences in the Upper East Region, Professor Albert Lugutera, has shared plans for major infrastructure upgrades to accommodate growing student numbers. He announced this during the 2025-2026 ceremony to welcome over 1,500 freshers to Navrongo. Peter Agengre reports.
The ceremony marked a milestone for the University of Technology and Applied Sciences, welcoming a record cohort of students. Professor Lugutera called it a covenant, a commitment between students and the university.
UTAS is not just a university. It is a community of thinkers, innovators, creators, and problem solvers. We do not train students merely to pass exams. We train leaders. We train citizens. We train men and women who will shape industry, influence policy, transform communities, and uphold integrity wherever they go.
Professor Lugutera says growing pains are real, admitting that the university's rapid growth has strained facilities, impacting academics and student life. But he announced that major projects are underway to boost infrastructure from lecture halls to laboratories. The Vice-Chancellor further highlighted the importance of discipline and integrity, warning against academic dishonesty. He expressed appreciation to stakeholders like the Ghana Tertiary Education Commission and the Ministry of Education for backing the university's growth. Peter Agengre for GBC News, Navrongo.
Let's now do some business news. The Ghana Institute of Freight Forwarders is calling on the Minister for Finance, Dr. Cassiel Atoforsen, to review the government's blanket transit restrictions following the Akanu-Dewenya-Tema incident at a news conference in Tema. The institute said all 18 trucks linked to the bill of entry were electronically tracked and later fiscally verified, insisting the system functioned as designed.
GIF as an institute warns that transit trade is highly sensitive to policy signals. If restrictions harden, Sahel-bound cargo may progressively divert. Ghana's transit infrastructure may face underutilization. Customs volumes could soften over the medium term. So the institute notes that cargo owners in Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali maintain alternative coastal options and respond quickly to perceived friction. Now, with the regional reciprocity consideration, GIF respectively draws attention to a forward-looking diplomatic risk. In the West African transit ecosystem, corridor policies often attract reciprocal treatment. Should Ghana be perceived as tightening transit access in a broader manner, neighboring jurisdictions may 1. Introduce mirror administrative frictions. 2. Recalibrate corridor preferences away from Ghana. And then 3. Adjust bilateral transit cooperation dynamics. So the Institute emphasizes that Ghana's leadership in the after era is best preserved through firm compliance enforcement that remains visible facilitativeness. Our proposed balanced path. GIF recommends a focused reform package built on 1. Risk-tiered escort protocols. 2. Real-time ICOMS and tracking reconciliation dashboards. 3. Strengthened transit bond reviews. 4. Joint customs Ghana Link anomaly review cell. Then 5. Sanctions targeted strictly at proven offenders. GIF respectfully invites the Honourable Minister to commission an independent technical reconciliation of the Bill of Entry incident, review the proportionality of current measures, convene structured stakeholder engagement, reaffirm Ghana's commitment to freedom of transit under enhanced compliance, and issue guidance distinguishing proven diversions from enforcement stage anomalies.
Accra Academy has clinched the top spot at this year's annual Roundtable Impact Discussion and Robotics Competition in Accra. This underscores the school's growing reputation as a powerhouse in STEM and cutting-edge robotics solutions.
The 2026 edition marks the 5th year of the annual Impact Roundtable Discussion, ERTAD and Robotics Competition. The Director of STEM Education at GES, Mrs. Olivia Sewopari, emphasized that collaborative efforts are essential to achieving the government's ambitious STEM agenda. The head of portfolio and implementers, Lauren Yeboah, noted that the competition has over the years helped students to be innovative in the world of technology and AI.
The Amansa model is an initiative that was started 2016, and it had a mission to put at least one ICT center in each of the 16 regions. And in 2022, we came up with a program which we are calling ERTAD, which is the Annual Impact Roundtable Discussion and Robotics Competition, as an impact platform or an assessment platform to be able to assess the impact that the program has been able to chalk over the years.
The president of the Helping Africa Foundation is Dr. Deborah Rose.
Introduce a curriculum in the schools age appropriate so that when they become adolescents and adults, they limit any unwanted pregnancies and the women can continue in school, not just the men.
Winners for the most innovative projects for the senior high school level and the basic school level spoke to GBC News.
We were emerged as winners of the most innovative project, senior high level. And then our projects were two. One was a smart energy management system and the other was a multifunctional electric farm solution. So the multifunctional electric farm solution does the job of a farmer automatically.
In the best innovative lab, we got the first runner-up, and in the quiz too, we got the first position, meaning we are the winners.
ERTAD is a flagship initiative of the Ghana Youth Excellence Program, and it brings together students, educators and partners to showcase innovative solutions developed through hands-on learning.
Government turned down bids amounting to about 6.1 billion cedis at its Treasury bill auction, despite robust demand for short-term debt instruments.
Of the total bids tendered, 8.80 billion cedis was accepted, about 3 billion cedis above the initial target. The strong subscription levels were recorded amid declining yields across all tenors, underscoring sustained investor appetite for government securities, particularly at the short end of the yield curve. Breakdown of the auction results showed that the 364-day bill attracted bids of roughly 5.16 billion cedis, with 3.53 billion cedis accepted. The 182-day instrument recorded bids of about 2.82 billion cedis, of which 1.58 billion cedis was taken up. Similarly, the 91-day bill saw bids nearing 6.82 billion cedis, while accepted bids stood at approximately 3.74 billion cedis. Yields compressed across all instruments, reflecting easing prices conditions by strong liquidity. The 91-day bill rate declined to 5.32% from 6.45% at the previous auction. The 182-day yield fell to 6.97% from 8.18%, while the 364-day bill dropped to 9.76%. Market analysts note that the persistent oversubscription coupled with declining yields signal improving liquidity conditions and sustained investor confidence in government securities, with demand increasingly concentrated in shorter-dated instruments.
Let's now have the latest on the Interbank and Commodities Board. Now to some energy news. Global oil prices have surged as Iran continues to launch strikes across the Middle East in response to ongoing attacks by the United States and Israel. Brent crude, the global benchmark for oil prices, jumped by about 10% on Monday to trade above $82 a barrel, following reports that at least 3 commercial vessels were attacked near the Straits of Hormuz over the weekend. Speaking to Energy News, policy lead with the Institute of Energy Security, Mr. Derek Zache, said while the situation could have severe implications for global fuel markets, Ghana has measures in place to cushion the impact.
Iran has warned vessels not to transit the vital waterway south of the country, through which roughly 20% of the world's oil and gas supplies are shipped, equivalent to about 20 million barrels per day. This makes the Strait of Hormuz the most critical global energy choke point. Analysts say international shipping has nearly ground to a halt at the strait's entrance, raising fears that a prolonged conflict could push energy prices even higher. Responding to potential consequences of the development on Ghana, a policy lead with the Institute of Energy Security, Derek Hatche, explained that the presence of 2 oil refineries alongside other internal interventions will help mitigate potential price shocks and serve as a buffer for the country.
Looking at Ghana, which is a net importer of petroleum products, especially refined petroleum products, that component of an increased international price will have some pass-on effect at the various pumps. But there are some internal measures that are able to curtail that, unlike previous instances where we used to experience some global shocks. Currently, the cedi, which is which we use for trading, is equally now stable. One component that affects fuel prices is the exchange rate. Looking at the cedi that has shown some amount of appreciation, or let me say stability, will ensure that the pass-through effect will not be realized at the various pumps. The other second internal measure that we have is that in the Temaro refinery, we also have another private entity, that is the Central Oil Refinery. And so we have 2 major refineries that are operating currently in the country with the efficient capacity of bursts as well as some other internal measures. The likely effect, what would have been the dire impact of what is happening on the international markets, wouldn't be felt exactly as compared to what we've experienced in the previous past.
Mr. Hatche added that the impact of the US-Israel-Iran conflict is unlikely to reflect immediately on Ghana's fuel prices due to stabilization measures implemented by the National Petroleum Authority.
The Center for Environmental Management and Sustainable Energy is concerned over the 1-week timeline issued by the Ministry of Energy and Green Transition for the ECG to investigate allegations of rapid depletion of prepaid electricity units. The directive follows mounting public complaints from consumers of how their prepaid electricity credits are exhausted quicker than expected. In an interview with Energy News, Executive Director of SEMSE, Mr. Benjamin Insia, argued that the time frame is inadequate for a comprehensive investigation.
I also think that the minister erred by directing ECG. ECG cannot investigate themselves. I think the appropriate authority that ought to have been assigned this role is the PRC or the Ghana Standard Authority, so that such independent investigation will bring a resource or will bring an outcome that is accepted by consumers and not maybe create an issue of trust, because the consumers may perceive any outcome from ECG as a misleading outcome, since they are those responsible for these alleged depleted meters. So I think that the ministry got it wrong by instigating or by directing ECG to embark on this particular investigation. Also, I also think that the 7 days given ECG is too small for this whole exercise. I think we need to give them, we need to give that particular authority that will do this investigation at least a month, because there are complaints coming across the country from NEDCO areas and ECG operational areas. So we need to create an operational desk at PRC or Standard Authority where these complaints will be laid, and investigation carried out based on these complaints.
Let's now do some health news brought to you by Trust Jehovah Herbal Center and Yamvita. During a working visit to the Upper East Region, Health Minister Mr. Kwabena Minta Akando issued a stern warning to health facilities. No patient should be turned away due to lack of bed space.
The Health Minister's working visit to Bolgatanga was to take stock of healthcare conditions and connect with frontline staff. Addressing health workers, Kwabena Minta Akando said denying patients care due to bed shortages is unacceptable. He urged administrators to optimize management systems for emergency cases as government pushes to upgrade infrastructure.
With the greatest of respect, no health facility has the right to turn any patient away because you say there's no bed. You don't have that unless you are referring a person. You all know what is going on in the public domain. So please, don't turn, even if you have to save the life on the floor, do your best.
The minister appealed to traditional leaders and local authorities to help attract and retain medical professionals in rural communities. He urged them to offer incentives like accommodation and support packages to motivate doctors to take up postings in underserved areas, saying it is a collective effort to bridge the healthcare gap.
I'm going to engage the districts, the DCs, the regional ministers, the MPs, the chiefs. Now look, if you want me to post a medical doctor or a health professional to your district, you have to give me a befitting accommodation.
The Upper East Regional Director of Health Services, Dr. Brahma Baba Abubakari, highlighted pressing facility needs in the region.
When we went around what the staff, we did this kind of meetings in all the districts. So the problems inaugurated, lack of critical staff appeared there. We have poor performance of the National Ambulance Service, and this also affects our 24-hour, adequate 24-hour service provision because of referrals.
The minister took time to meet two newly posted doctors at Bolgatanga's regional hospital, assuring them of government's push to improve working conditions. Peter Agengere, GBC News, Bolgatanga.
That's it for this segment, brought to you by Trust Jehovah Herbal Center and Yamvita. We are back shortly. Please stay with us.
Still, Misaka, and Namu was a summer brabo. Any kind of phone, Swabrabo, Canino, na anti-sacro. So would this case here? And I said, Uchen Sika, our lorry station. Na a home say. Neso, and ne. Momo, see.
Misaka pension is Caro.
Misaka or the Sika.
Misaka
insurance no.
Misaka loan.
Momo Fogosuri ye echumaden. Dia boye nyina ye sika ho ban. Se MTN ana momo jumaye ni befrewa or the 0244 300,000 ene befrew. Na numpo orin bitsaw one-time password ana se upin code enti wonso ye wa femu je na ma weni na ho na wonsa enka wo momo.
MedShay, natural mosquito repellent, highly recommended by Ministry of Health, CHAS and GES, lab tested by Noguchi Medical, field trialed by Atomic Energy Commission. It has no chemical or side effects and is good for all ages and skin type. MedShay is available nationwide. Contact us on 0244892413. This advert is approved by...
Advert is FDA approved.
I don't go beat test. I don't pata ginger. 1, 2, 3. I don't go beat test. No. I don't pata ginger. I don't go 1, 2, 3. I don't go famico. I don't go famico. I don't go 1, 2, 3. I don't pata ginger. Yeah, they have my name.
Wontoma nipa wondi enfiedu nwoche enyema apemfo ne oba oma akwada no fo.
MedShay, natural mosquito repellent, highly recommended by Ministry of Health, CHAS and GES, lab tested by Noguchi Medical, field trialed by Atomic Energy Commission. It has no chemical or side effects and is good for all ages and skin type. MedShay is available nationwide. Contact us on 0244892413. This ad...
Welcome back to some international news. Zimbabwe has begun releasing nearly 4,000 inmates who were granted presidential amnesty in a bid to ease overcrowding in prisons. The cabinet announced the amnesty in February. On the same day, it approved sweeping changes to the constitution as part of a plan to extend 83-year-old President Emmerson Mnangagwa's term till 2030. Zimbabwe's prisons held just over 24,000 inmates in the second quarter of 2025. A total of 4,305, including 223 women, will eventually be released. The presidential amnesty reflects a profound commitment to restorative justice, national compassion, and the strategic decongestion of correctional facilities. The scheme did not include prisoners convicted of severe crimes such as murder, robbery, rape, or contravention of the Maintenance of Peace and Order Act, a charge that has been used in the past against protesters and political opposition. The Southern African country has been stirred since last year by rising anger against President Mnangagwa and his ruling ZANU-PF party, with leading opposition figures denouncing a constitutional coup after the constitutional amendment approved by the cabinet last month. In sports news, the head coach of the senior national women's football team, the Black Queens, Coach Kim Lars, has praised her players for their 4-0 win over their counterparts from Hong Kong.
I think we start the game so well. I mean, I think we have our first chance already after like 10-15 seconds. We show our opponent today that we were ready from the start. We took the momentum, we're creating chances. We had the 2-0 in halftime. In the in halftime, we spoke about to start the second half in a good way as well and finish the game. And we scored a really quick goal in the second half. And in the end, we won with 4-0. It could probably have been even more. So of course, I'm super happy with the start. Great performance, great result. It's a cup game, but in the same time, a friendly game. So I wish that we had the opportunity to use even more subs, especially when we had a good result. But we had the 6 subs and we used all of them. And we saw, I think, 3 new players on the pitch. Zakaria, one of them. She did well. She is hungry inside of the box. We know that she's super dangerous. So I'm happy for her that she, in the first game, scored her first goal. Respect to our opponent today, because they are almost in similar FIFA ranking as us, but it's a big step to Russia. It's a big step. I mean, we're talking about the team. There is, I think, 24 in the world, so it's going to be a super tough game. So I think completely different. I don't know what the possession we had today, but probably 75% or something like that at least. Against Russia, I expect more of 50-50. It's going to be more physical, more duels, and more tough game.
A 13-year-old tennis player from the Kolebu Tennis Club, Helen Ejay, has been crowned winner of the maiden edition of the Otinkroma Foundation Memorial Tennis Competition. She defeated Grace Tete from Tesano Tennis Club 7-6, 4-6, 10-4 in a thrilling final to claim the ultimate prize of 2,000 cedis, tennis souvenirs, and a trophy.
All four semi-finalists of the Otinkroma Memorial Foundation competition put up a spectacular display of tennis. Grace Nadromo Tete overcame Mavis Mauli 6-4, 6-2 to book her place in the final. On the other hand, Helen Ejay defeated Mariam Akrugu 6-2, 6-2 to set up a showdown with Grace. In the final, both teenagers showcased their talent on the court in an exciting contest. The first set was decided in a tie-break, with Helen enduring to win 7-6. Grace returned with renewed energy in the second set, rallying strongly and capitalizing on Helen's unforced errors to win 6-4. In the decisive tie-break set, Helen rediscovered her form and mounted a stronger challenge, winning 10-4 to be crowned champion of the Otinkroma competition. The two finalists expressed their gratitude to the organizers for hosting the competition.
I started training every single day.
Right.
After school and in the morning.
Okay.
So my coach told me I shouldn't play for the tournament, but I should try my best and win the trophy. So I tried my best to take the trophy home, to make my parents proud for supporting me in the tournament.
I wish I can come back next year with a little more practice, and thank you for organizing this tournament. I wish you can organize it next year.
The secretary of the Otinkroma Memorial Foundation, Madam Mansa Ala Williams, pledged to sustain the competition, especially to promote and support young girls and their education.
Our main objectives is to put people through to university. However, we decided to do tennis this time because it's a sport that my father loves. Also, we thought it would be a good way to expose the foundation because not a lot of people know Otinkroma Memorial Foundation. We thought that this would be a good thing to organize to, let people know that we are here and we are doing a lot. And sports, everybody loves sports. So we decided that let's use this channel because
all 16 players received a cash donation of 200 cedis each to purchase books and pens. For placing second, Grace Nadromo Tete took home 1,000 cedis, a trophy and tennis balls. As champion, Helen Ejay received 2,000 cedis, tennis souvenirs and a trophy.
That's it for News Eye. I was live on GBC News, your trusted news channel. We'll be back at 10 p.m. with news tonight. Still have a good evening. Bye-bye.
In 1965, Ghana chose her own value. From cowries and pounds, the cedi was born, our pride in our own hands. It flowed through markets, palms, and memories, and became part of daily life. Through every season of change, the cedi has remained a constant in Ghanaian life. In 2007, we took a bold step, ushering in a new era of confidence and stability. Today, the cedi lives in banks, markets, and apps, rooted in tradition, shaped by history, carried by innovation. 60 years on, it remains our heritage, our identity, our pride. Know the city. Keep it clean.
Meet Kwame. He's not just any Kwame. He's Kwame the TV license legend. Kwame knows that by paying his TV license, he's supporting GBC, our public service broadcaster, and he's making a real difference. Kwame's contribution helps bring our communities closer together. Because of Kwame and others like him, we will all have access to amazing TV programs, educational content, plus broadcasting infrastructures are maintained and our culture is beautifully promoted. So GBC is asking all to respond to this civic obligation and pay your TV license fee. For individuals, it's 3 CDs per month or 36 CDs per year. If you have multiple sets, meaning 2 or more in your household, it's 60 CDs per year. For commercial institutions, it's your number of TV sets by 36 CDs per year, and you pay the invoiced amount directly to GBC. So let's all take a moment to appreciate Kwame, the TV license legend. Wherever you are, just dial *447*333# and follow the prompt. It's your civic duty, so pay your TV license today. GBC, the authentic and trusted voice of Ghana.
Zanzibar. Asanteni sana na karibuni tena.
Thank you, the Honorable Deputy Minister. We shall now hear from a statement from Ms. Sophia Eddy, Coordinator, African Court Coalition, who will be represented by Ms. Anita Cherubi. While she walks to the podium, I would like to correct the protocol list. Honorable Amos Makala, Regional Commissioner for Arusha, is represented here by Dr. Jacob Julius Mrombo, the District Administrative Secretary of Arusha. We would also like to recognize the presence of Her Excellency Veronica Nduva, the Secretary General of the East African Community. Ms. Cherubi, you're welcome.
Thank you. His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, President of the Republic of Ghana, Honorable Judge, President of the African Court on Human and People's Rights, Justice Blaise Chikaya, Her Excellency Ambassador Salma Malika Haddadi, Deputy Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Honorable Zainab Athumani Katimba, Deputy Minister of Constitutional and Legal Affairs of the United Republic of Tanzania, Honorable Judges of the African Court on Human and People's Rights, Honorable Ministers in attendance, members of the Diplomatic Corps, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. On behalf of the African